question. But need to use the mic? Now can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Perfect. So I like to move around, so to make it a little bit more interactive. But if you at any point in time can't hear me, just raise your hand. I'm going to start using my mic. Right? Thanks for the introduction, my name is Prashant Jain. So very good morning to you. And thank you for giving me this opportunity for actually being here and maybe starting off with the first session. As Samir mentioned, I work for Kyndryl. Been with Kyndryl or IBM almost 20 years. So like very quick kind of background about myself. Most of this already been mentioned. I consider myself to be a technologist. I've been in the IT industry for a long time. Always been in a technical role. I started my career as a software developer, software engineer. The years I got into research, moved from research into cloud computing. I've been doing cloud computing for the last 11 years, which is a very long time for cloud computing. Even cloud computing itself only been around for about say 15 years. So, what I'm going to do today is really talk about technology trends, and as the title of my talk was really talking about riding the technology wave. I'm going to touch upon what is happening in the world and how you can kind of leverage that to your advantage. All right? Question for everyone. You're all familiar with these four logos, these four companies. All right? What do these companies have in common? Who said that? Perfect. What's interesting about these companies, Uber does not own any vehicles, Alibaba has no inventory, Airbnb has no real estate, and Facebook does not generate any content. And yet, these are very successful companies. Companies that all of us know about. Probably also using most of these companies, their products, whatever they make. And they've been very successful. So what is the secret of this success? Pretty technology. Technology is at the core of all of these companies. These did not start as brick and mortar stores. They were all online companies. They all started their business online, very successful, providing the technology mainly. And the key thing that we're focusing on is the customer experience. What do I mean by customer experience? Four things primarily. Okay? First is in terms of making technology, using technology to give customers a very easy to use experience. Even a child can use some of these applications. Okay, you and I get so comfortable using whether it's Facebook, Airbnb for booking. It's that ease of use, the experience. Second thing is very personalized. The content is personalized as per my preference. Okay, if I, for example, have a banking application, what I would like to see in there is a very personalized experience. Okay, Facebook, again, it curates the content based upon your behavior, whatever your interaction has been. The third is, it has to be very empowering. It has to give me the ability to do more than what I've been doing so far. And finally, it has to be always available, always on. No one likes a website to be down. No one likes an application to be down. You always want to be able to use an application to make a booking, for example. All right? And not only that, you want to be able to use it on your phone, on your tablet, on the laptop. So all these four companies, they're focused on that customer experience. Now, beyond that customer experience, one of the things these companies have also done, they have been disruptors. Or they have ridden the technology wave around that disruption. What do I mean by technology wave? What do I mean by being a disruptor? So I'll give you an analogy. If you look at the automobile industry, okay? And the automobile industry, I'll go back, let's say, about 100 years. Around the early 1900s, automobiles started becoming a bit more common. It was really in 1908 when Henry Ford introduced Model T, which was one of the most disruptive automobiles. Why is that the case? Because in 1913, Ford Motor Company introduced the first assembly line. And what happened with the assembly line is suddenly cars that used to take a long time to manufacture, suddenly you could start manufacturing them much faster. So much so that it used to take 12 and a half hours to make one car, and that 12 and a half hours came down to 1.5 hours. A huge disruption. Not only that, the price point of car in 1909 used to cost $950 for a Model T. 7 years later, 1916, the price went down to $360. 10 years later, 1926, the price went down to $290. Less than one third what it originally cost. So much so that even a factory worker could now afford a car. So the assembly line became a disruption. It disrupted the industry, and so much so that by late 1920s, about 250 companies that did not adopt the assembly line went out of business. Now the interesting thing is, even though Ford Motor Company was the disruptor, they brought the assembly line, they became complacent. They felt this is good. We'll be selling Model T, we're selling other cars. In fact, so much so like by the mid 1920s, half the cars sold worldwide were Ford cars. But they did not drive any more innovation. Whereas other companies, what they started doing, they started copying what Ford did. They all introduced assembly line. In addition, they started introducing other features. And then what happened? Ford started losing the market. General Motors brought in automatic transmission. And one after another, there were a whole slew of other innovations, things like ABS, GPS, double speeds. Robotic innovation came in 1961. The first robotic arm was introduced, used for spot welding. 1969, the Stanford arm, which is meant to be, which gives you like 6 degrees of freedom in terms of being able to do all kinds of things, that was introduced. So one innovation after another started coming in, and this again was another technology wave. Driving innovation is causing a lot of disruption. If you fast forward to where we are, the last few decades, last 20 years, there's a different set of innovations that can happen, different set of disruption. We still have autonomous now vehicles coming in, self-driving cars, the Teslas, right? And then you also have things like electric cars, hybrid cars. A lot of you may be owning these cars, right? But in addition to these changes that are happening in the automobile itself, there's another innovation that's actually driving disruptions. There's the whole model behind owning a car. Do I still need to own a car? People are questioning what is the purpose of a car? A car essentially allows me to go from point A to point B. What if I can go from point A to point B without owning a car, especially if it's more cost effective? Ride sharing, Uber, okay? Those essentially are bringing in a different sort of disruption. Whether they're successful or not, time will tell. But this is an example of what I call as technological waves that are driving disruption in an industry. And this is, by the way, one example, the same thing happening in the IT industry as well. Difference in the IT industry, the time scale is smaller, but it's not been around that long, but at least I'm focusing more on the last 40 years. So if I really look at the 1980s, big disruption that happened was the birth of the personal computer. The computers have been around even that. But in the 80s is when finally you as an individual could buy a computer that would actually fit in your room or at least on your desk. Before that, I mean, yeah, computers were there. These were like monolithic, large computers that would need like a whole room. In the 80s, suddenly you had number of personal computers. Then there was also an era of what is called distributed computing. What that is basically instead of having software running on just one machine, you could spread it out. You have the notion of client and server. So you have the backend computing happening, and then I am using it from a end client. Fast forward to 2000, birth of the internet, or the really not the birth, but really the internet essentially kind of driving a lot of the disruption in terms of e-business, e-commerce. The likes of Amazon came alive, and that became a big disruptor. I was in the US at that point in time. I mean, I don't know how many of you have heard of it, but there used to be bookstores called Barnes and Noble and also Borders. Okay, their business got pregnant, and they initially dismissed it, thinking, no, this is not going to impact them. And The rest is history. Amazon became a big disruption for them. Borders got, I think, eventually bought by Barnes and Noble, and Barnes and Noble eventually went online just because of this competition. Then we started talking about big data and analytics. Okay? Data is being looked upon as the next big resource. Why? Because there's so much you can do with that data. The analytics you can drive from that data can be very precious. So that allows companies to do all kinds of things. Now, this has been around for a long time, but it's only now that it's really kind of making an impact. The reason for that is the power of compute has changed over the years. The compute that's available today compared to, let's say, 15 years or 20 years back is a huge difference. But again, if I fast forward to today, the 2020s, 4 key areas which I feel are really kind of going to be part of the disruption. One is mobile, second is social, third is cloud, and fourth is cognitive. Cognitive is another word for AI. Today, I'm going to focus more on the cloud and cognitive. Talk a little bit about those two areas, what's been happening. And I'm going to start with some basics, just kind of more as an introduction to cloud computing, introduction to AI, and talk a little bit more what is the impact, potential impact of those two areas from an accounting professional point of view. Right? Let's start with the first one. What is cloud computing? Yeah, I'll start with some very basic definition. Cloud computing, think of it as a way of consuming shared resources. What do I mean by a shared resource? What is a resource? When I talk about resource, think of 3 things. Compute basically means think of, like, say, if you have a computer which has a CPU, that's the compute. Storage, everything that I store. And third is network, which basically connects everything together. Those 3 things collectively are what I call as shared resources. So now, instead of having my own dedicated machine, my own server sitting in my data center, I'm no longer going to own a server. Instead, I rely on something which is hosted by someone else, like a company like AWS, Microsoft. Okay? They will invest in that hardware and software. Okay? And I will rent, whether it's compute, storage, or network from these companies. So instead of having to pay for that upfront, instead of having a capital expenditure, I'm converting that into operational expenditure. And I'm going to talk a bit about why that is important. Why does it matter? I'm also going to talk a little bit about these words here. Okay, you have 2 different types of clouds, and you have to talk about 2 different what I call service models. I'll just touch on what these are. Start with the first one in terms of what are the different types of cloud. And you talk to different people, you get different definition. But by and large, everyone says, okay, public cloud is basically what you consume off the internet. AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, the 3 big public cloud providers. There are others as well. Oracle has its own cloud. IBM has its own cloud. Alibaba has its own cloud. So these are all public cloud. Reason why they're public clouds is because anyone can consume, can subscribe to these. You as an individual can do it. You as part of a business can consume cloud services from these companies. That's the public cloud. Private cloud is similar to public cloud, except for it's dedicated to you. It's reserved just for you. You can have a private cloud in your own data center. It still gives you the cloud-like behavior, but if it's dedicated for you, obviously you have to invest in it. Right? So it comes somewhere in between. It doesn't give you all the benefits, because obviously you're still investing, meaning there is capital expenditure involved. The third thing, what is called a hybrid cloud, is a mix of all of this. The traditional IT is basically whatever exists today. Without cloud, if you have a data center, you have servers running in there, you have your own storage running in there, that is what I call as traditional IT. Hybrid cloud is a combination of these. And most businesses today are consuming hybrid cloud. The reason for that is because they already have a lot of investment in existing infrastructure, in existing servers in their own data centers. They're not going to get rid of that overnight. Slowly and slowly, they start moving their applications onto the public cloud. So for a good period of time, we will have some applications running in their own data centers, some which are running in public cloud. That is what is called hybrid cloud. Okay. Then very quickly, let's talk about these terms which I had earlier. IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. These stand for Infrastructure as a Service, Platform as a Service, and Software as a Service. Okay, it's a bit technical, but not a big deal. All right. All it is saying is infrastructure as a service. Traditionally, whatever hardware you had in your own data center, whatever server storage you had in your own data center, let's say you were owning that. Now you no longer own that. You're consuming it as a service. You're paying as you go. You're renting that out. So you're taking it as a service. You're not buying anything. You want to use it for 6 months, you only pay for 6 months. You need a server for, let's say, to do a project just for 1 week, you only pay for 1 week. Everything is consumed as a service. That's the first one, infrastructure service. Typical users for this could be developers, because they have their own projects, they need something for 6 months, they use it for 6 months. A lot of the IT teams, IT departments, they also are users of infrastructure service. Businesses typically will not fall in this category. Platform as a service falls in between. This typically would be what the developers are consuming. They're essentially getting a development platform which they can consume as a service. It's the third one, which is the most interesting and most relevant for most of you, which is software as a service. Okay. What that basically the name implies, this is basically software that normally you would purchase and install on your own machine. You're no longer doing that. It's running in the cloud. Okay, a good example that everyone can relate to is say something like Microsoft Office 365. Okay, a few years back, maybe like a decade back, I still remember like I used to purchase a license for Microsoft Office, I would download the software, I would install it on my laptop, I would consume it. Today, it's running as a service in the cloud. Probably one of the earliest examples, I don't know how many of you remember, 1996, Hotmail was introduced. Okay? That was one of the first examples of software as a service. Then at that point in time, I mean, email was something, okay, it was magical, but suddenly it became accessible to everyone because it was there in the cloud. All you needed was an internet connection, create your own email account, and consume email as a service. So that is what software as a service is, and this is typically what most people, whether they're businesses or individuals, that's what they consume. I did a little bit of research. I'm obviously not an accountant, but I wanted to see okay, how much software is available today as a service. And all of these are just examples of software which traditionally may be licensed product that you would download. Today, all of these exist on the cloud. You can consume all of these as a service. And as I said, the question obviously comes in, why should you pay? Okay, what's the advantage? Okay, whether it's a cloud or software as a service. Okay, here are a few examples. The first thing is increased flexibility. By being on the cloud, okay, you can access it from anywhere. You can access it from your mobile device, your tablet, from a laptop, whether it's data or application. Either way, it gives you that flexibility. Okay, today, for example, if you're using an iPhone or any kind of Android device, take a photograph, you can immediately sync with the cloud, photograph goes to the cloud. You can share that link with like someone else, or you can go back, look at it from your laptop. Because everything is connected and it's in one place. Reduce cost. Now, you would ask, okay, why would it be cheaper? Think about what has happened. You no longer need to buy the hardware to install that software. Software itself, in the past years, you would pay for the license for that, and now you're consuming everything as a service. Because of economies of scale, it comes out to be cheaper if you're just procuring or just consuming it as a service. Security. Now, this obviously can be debatable. Does cloud make it more secure? Now, obviously, especially when you hear about all the data breaches, okay, it obviously brings that question. Is my data actually more secure? Is an application running on cloud more secure? Now, this is a tricky one. My personal opinion, this is basically where you need to divide it into two parts. There is the actual cloud itself, the infrastructure, and then there's the application that's actually running on top and the data. The cloud itself, the cloud providers like Amazon or Microsoft or Google, they give you the plumbing to make cloud itself secure. And this could be through encryption, could be through multi-factor authentication, could be physical barriers in terms of making sure no one can enter the data center. They give you that ample ability to have security. But then it's really up to the application developers or providers, or who are deploying the application, what level of security controls they have. Okay, are they actually using like some of these things like encryption, for example, or making sure that the users who should have access to, they are able to access. Okay, so that's basically where the security controls really need to come in. So cloud by itself, in terms of plumbing that's provided by the cloud providers, is very secure. Fourth one is in terms of data accuracy. Okay, given suppose you're into the first one, the fact that now everything's connected. Okay, if I'm uploading data or I'm using data that's on my laptop, immediately it's getting synced in the cloud. So you know that okay, if someone else is accessing the data, it'll be real time. It'll be actual the updated data. There won't be any lag there. That's another benefit. Few more. Cloud typically would include much more performing servers. These are the latest and the greatest servers, physical servers. Just imagine how many times you in the past would have bought a server or bought a PC. With the same is the moment you bought something, it's already out of date. This technology obviously moves along so fast. And you've already invested in a hardware, it'll sit in your data center, the center that depreciates completely, typically for 5 years, before you would then consider investing in another hardware. Cloud, you don't have to worry about it. That's actually taken care of by the cloud provider. So the upgrades in terms of like the new chip that comes in, they're the first ones to bring it into their own data center. The same thing with the software in terms of automatic updates. Okay, new versions of the software come along. You don't have to do anything. Cloud provider, software as a service, it gets those updates automatically. Finally, data backups is a very important part of it. I still remember like many years back, I used to take a backup of my laptop on a physical hard disk. Then suddenly one day it occurred to me, what happens if my laptop crashes and my hard disk crashes? So, okay, I'll buy one more hard disk. So then I would take a backup on my hard disk, then I would take a backup of the hard disk onto another hard disk. So it gave me a little bit more confidence. But then again, I started thinking, what if my house catches fire? I lose everything. Right? So obviously, even though I'm taking a backup, I'm trying to be as secure as possible. But there's always that possibility that okay, something else may happen with which may lose that data. That is one problem that cloud providers are able to solve. Because today, if you take a backup of your data and it's going into cloud, what they do is essentially they replicate that data across multiple data centers. Those data centers are typically in different cities, sometimes even in different countries, depending on what it is that you want. That definitely gives you a lot of power right there. So all of this, if I look at it, before we go on, so from an accounting point of view, obviously a lot of benefits you can get. I'm going to touch upon this towards the end again in terms of how you can actually take advantage of it. Let me move on now to the second area that I want to talk about, which is AI. Now, everyone obviously has heard of AI. I mean, a lot of people, not a lot, in fact, all of you are probably also using AI, whether you realize it or not. So let me first start with a very simple definition. What is artificial? Okay. Artificial intelligence, in very simple words, basically computer systems trying to do things that normally requires human intelligence. Okay, things like, for example, visual perception, speech recognition. Okay, I'll give you a few examples without getting here. The first one is speech recognition itself. Today, if everyone is familiar with, say, something like Siri, for example, or you use Amazon Echo, for example, okay, Alexa, on that, where you can actually just talk to the device. Okay, you can ask, you can make a query, and somehow magically you get a response back. What's actually happening behind the scenes is whatever you've spoken, that speech gets transcribed to text. The text is used for the query, get a response back, the response is then again read back to you. I still remember like about 15 years back when I was working for IBM Research. This was in India, and used to be part of the India Research Lab. So India Research Lab at IBM, we actually invented speech recognition for Hindi and Indian English. So speech recognition has been around for a long time, but like most of it was English, meaning American English or British English. So the India Research Lab, they came up with a technology for Indian accent English. And we actually then eventually sold this technology to a company called Nuance, which is used to be a market leader in speech recognition. And they obviously further then included in their product. Now, the technology has been around for a long time, but it never kind of really saw the day of the light. It never kind of really got mass produced. Why? And the key difference is between then and now is again what has happened with the computational power. To be able to do this in real time, have speech recognition happening on a small device like a phone, or like something like Amazon Echo, and be able to kind of do whatever searching is required, whatever processing is required, and be able to respond back in real time. That power exists today. That is why today speech recognition is becoming so pervasive. You can talk to like Google, in the car, and you've got embedded devices all over the place. Customer service, chatbots. I'm sure most of you have interacted with some chatbot at some point in time. Some of these are text-based. A lot of them are also now voice-based. Okay, and this is again where AI essentially is being used to respond to your queries in real time. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in one of the examples I have. Computer vision, autonomous vehicles, we talked about it. Okay, how does that even work? It starts by the ability to recognize images. Okay, being able to distinguish between a human and a telephone pole. Okay, the whole thing about computer vision, again, AI engines, they're the ones that are driving that. Recommendation engine is a very interesting one. Okay, all of you have experienced it when you go to, let's say, even like say Facebook or like go to any e-commerce site where it makes recommendations based on your own past behavior, based on your own past purchases, what you have purchased, for example, or content that you looked at. So all that data that you're actually generating without realizing, all that gets used by AI, make recommendations for you. This is a very interesting example of this, not necessarily a recommendation engine, but the same use case is, for example, from a banking perspective, okay, flagging off a transaction that looks suspicious. How does it work? Effectively, if I'm, for example, I've got regular set of payments that I'm making, or like payments in like a certain amount, and now suddenly, for example, there's a transaction that looks really suspicious for a large amount. AI can very easily look at it and say, look, this user, this is a past behavior, here's the transaction that looks suspicious, it flags it off. Then it's up to you to decide whether that's legitimate or not. And if it's not, obviously take the right action. Other one is automated short trading. I mean, today you have AI-based algorithms which are essentially doing automated trading, sometimes thousands, even billions of transactions per second, per day, without requiring any human intervention. So what does it mean from an accounting point of view? How would you leverage, for example, AI, or what's the impact of AI? The first one is data entry. Okay, a lot of the manual tasks, things that require a lot of human labor, a lot of this can be automated by AI. Things like, for example, data gathering, sifting through that data, organizing that data. A lot of that can actually be automated using AI. Financial statement preparation. Now, a lot of times, obviously, the question comes up is AI here to replace me? Is AI here to replace what I do? Okay, as an accountant, if I'm preparing, let's say, whatever, like, balance sheets or profit loss statements, what will happen with AI? And I'm going to talk, we touched on this a bit more shortly, but the point I'm making here is very simple. Think of AI as a tool. Okay, it's an enabler. It's not going to replace individuals. Okay, here again, in terms of an economic financial statement preparation, the idea essentially is it can actually look at data, it can validate the accuracy of data. And the example I was giving earlier, like, for example, the data which look kind of a little bit out of place. For example, something which may have an extra zero or one less zero based on the past historical data. It can flag, it can actually help in financial statement preparation, not prepare it on its own. Fraud detection, I already gave you that example. There's like we see looking for patterns, looking for things that look different from the past. Auditing again something simple, similar, looking for discrepancies, okay, from an audit perspective. Tax return preparation. Now, this is an interesting one. Tax laws obviously are complex and they keep changing. And they change and they're obviously different by different countries. And obviously, those who are tax consultants, I mean, they specialize in this and they try to keep up to date on what's happening, and yet it's never easy. This is one area where AI can definitely help. Because the thing that AI really kind of does very well is work with data, work with large volumes of data. And this is one example I'm going to talk a little bit about. The company called Wolters Kluwer. I don't know how many of you have heard of it. It's a global company. And they make software. They make software for basically tax or auditing, finance, and even legal. And in 1995, they acquired a company called CCH. I don't know what CCH stands for, but another company that also makes software. And one of the software that CCH has is called iKnow. I don't know anything about this company or anything, but what I was doing is I was doing some searching on what are the common software used by accountants or tax consultants, and I came with a whole list of software. And one of them was this iKnow. So I went to their website and I saw a video to get a demo of that software. It's a very interesting software. It's a research platform. And by that, what it means is tax consultants who have subscribed to this software, they can go in the wealth of information in that software. Okay, it's like a knowledge base. Okay, and obviously that software keeps getting updated based on any changes that happen in the tax laws and all that. And within that, there is, I found this thing, it's probably hard for you to read, I'll just read a few. There's like a knowledge base, there's a set of questions saying, for example, when is a depreciating asset allocated to the general small business group? Is a profit in actual asset? How to calculate the first element of cost for a depreciating asset for a small business entity, and so forth. And these questions, obviously, there's a huge set of questions. And those who subscribe to the software can go in and cannot get answers. Now, as I was looking at it, the question came up in my mind: what if the same knowledge base exists on the internet? I don't need to buy the software anymore. So I went ahead and I took those questions and I typed them in, and I got actual answers, detailed answers to each of those questions. And this fascinated me. Okay? How many of you here have heard of using called ChatGPT? Yeah. Okay. So all of these are generated by ChatGPT. Okay, so this is about a month back when I just started looking at what I can talk about. So with that time, ChatGPT was obviously quite new. Those of you who have not heard of ChatGPT, you will, trust me. It's all pervasive right now. There's a lot of excitement around it. ChatGPT was created by a company called OpenAI. OpenAI was started in 2015 by none other than Elon Musk and another person called Sam Altman. Sam Altman is the CEO today. Elon Musk left the company 3 years later, in 2018, because he had a conflict of interest with Tesla. Now, interestingly, ChatGPT, they came out with a new version of the product. It's based on something called GPT language model. Don't worry about that. But this version got released on 30th November. In a matter of 5 days, more than 1 million people subscribed to this. It's an all-time record. The last one is like Instagram. It took them about 2.5 months to reach that milestone. Now, why is there so much excitement? In fact, in 2019, Microsoft invested $1 billion in this company. And because of this excitement, for 2 or 3 weeks back, Microsoft announced they're going to invest $10 billion in this company. Not only that, Microsoft has announced that they're going to incorporate this technology into every product of theirs. Already happened. So Microsoft adored the cloud computing. They're going to offer this as a service within that. There's a lot of excitement. Okay? Now, it's also becoming a threat for a lot of companies. New York, they actually block access to ChatGPT to all the students. You know why? Simple thing. The way I was showing you those things, where you can type a question, you can go in and say, write me an essay, 500 words on such topic, and you can even say in this kind of frame or this kind of style. And it writes an essay for you in real time, right there. And it really looks like as if it's actually written by a human. You want it to be a little bit longer, you can say, okay, so 500, make it 1,000. Or you want to say, okay, well, this paragraph can expand on that and do that for you. So it's really does the AI really coming alive. Google sees this as a big threat. And Sundar Pichai has already kind of sounded more red in Google. Why? Because this is a real threat to the search business. Obviously, when all of this is happening, it again brings the question, could this be a threat to different profession? And I'll give you a real story. I mean, with this, my son, he's just starting university and he's going to be studying computer science. And he came in and spoke to me, he's like, Dad, should I still go into computer science? I said, why? He said, because what I'm reading is this technology is going to make software development itself kind of automated and you don't need software development. In fact, just yesterday he was telling me that OpenAI is hiring 1,000 contractors, of which 40% are developers, and their goal will be to eliminate basic software developers. Just take away that job. Okay? It's a real threat from a software development. Why? Because today you can actually go in and say, write me a piece of code in Java that implements this functionality and it generates the code that actually works. So Sam Altman, as the CEO, so this is the code that he created. So it's hard to answer the question of what job to be taken. But humans always find new things to do, and the future will likely be amazing. Embracing change will be important. That's the key. Embracing change. It's a disruption. Now the question is, you let it disrupt you, or you ride that technology wave, be disrupted. I want to show you a few more examples. Same company, OpenAI, they also came out with something called DALL-E. And just recently, last year, they released the version 2 of this thing called DALL-E 2. Very fascinating kind of tool. And by the way, all of these are free. You can go in, you can try it yourself. This one, what it does is give it a few, like a text description, and it generates an image. It generates, it does not search, doesn't find existing images. These are new images that are getting created. And just for fun, I gave it the screen. I said, okay, give me image for 4 accountants, writing a report at a beach, sunset in the background, give it to me in digital form. I could have said, okay, give it to me in, for example, in oil painting or like canvas. You can be creative. And it gives you every time 4 different images. And you can pick whichever one you want. If you don't like it, you can make it more specific. I tried another one. I said, okay, give me an image of an astronaut hoisting Indian flag on the moon, with Earth in the background, and again give it to me in God. And it generated those images for me. This is in real time. These are all visual images. Few more examples. Okay. All these exist today. All of these are free. At least at the initial version. Musical is another AI-based software that allows you to generate music, original music. Jukebox takes it one step further. Not only it generates music, it's also singing with it. Original songs generated by AI. Synthesia, okay, it does it from a video point of view. It's very rudimentary. What it allows you to do, it has the notion of an avatar. You give it a transcript. Okay, that this is the transcript, and then suddenly you have like what looks like a human being actually speaking the transcript. Great for businesses who want to have an online business and they don't have to hire individuals to read or to talk to the product. You write the transcript, you use everything, it's AI driven. The fourth example is not really a software, but there's many software that are using this called synthetic data. What does that mean? Today, data is precious. Obviously, it's also very sensitive, especially if it is AI data. So if I'm a developer and I want to do software development which uses data, like say initial user data, I may run into a problem because obviously it's very sensitive data. What synthetic data does, basically AI takes real data and generates synthetic data which does not have anything to do with the original data, so you cannot identify any individual. That's why it's called synthetic data, but it's all practical purposes as good as the original data. This is being used by a lot of companies like American Express, JP Morgan, Amazon, UK Financial Conduct Authorities. They're all using synthetic data. All this being done by AI. Give you a few more examples. I'm not going to go through these, but you search on the internet, all these companies, plus probably another half a dozen more, they're all doing content generation. Okay? And they all claim to generate original content. There's no plagiarism. This is original content, not content that already exists. How is it possible? This is the whole power of AI. It takes existing data, essentially it's learning from that, and it's then generating new data. This can be great for, like, say, writing blogs, and even responding to emails. They're creating new content, original content. Give you one last example. So this one is called Viewable. Again, free to use. Okay? What it does is it claims that it can generate a website for you in less than 30 seconds. I have tried it out. Okay, so it's just ask two questions. Okay, first thing is what type of business are you building? So this is only starting for you just need to start a new business and you want like a website. I said fine, very much choice to give you the content that they get. Let's go with the content. Then it says what's the name of your business? And then Prashant Accounting Private Limited. And by the way, if you're even out of ideas about names, it can actually even give you some suggestions. You click on it and it gives you some suggestions and you can take its suggestion or use your own thing. Okay, so I said, okay, Prashant Accounting Private Limited, 15 seconds or even less later, it generated a professional looking website. Okay, all this is free. Okay, now obviously if you want to then tweak it further and all that, I think that's where you make money. That's where the subscription part comes in. But look, there's again something that exists today. And in fact, my son was showing me how you can actually piece a few of these technologies together, all the way from getting an idea of what business to start, generating the business, the website itself, and even taking it further. The entire thing can be done in a matter of minutes or hours if you know the right tools to use for that. So I talked about AI, talked about a few examples, but obviously AI also has some challenges. And there are three key challenges that I want to highlight. The first one is data transparency. For AI to be successful, whatever AI does, it relies heavily on data. Okay, and that data basically comes from human beings. All right. Now, obviously, data becomes sensitive. So when I am giving my data, I need to know what is that data going to be used for. If I'm not comfortable, I'm not going to share that data. So for any AI advancement to happen, there needs to be a lot more transparency in terms of how is that data going to get used. Especially if there's also a concern about data breaches from happening. That's the first one, data transparency. Second one has to do with explainable algorithm. Okay? Now this is a very interesting one. The way AI works today, you can think of it as a black box. What is a black box? It's something like it's like magic that happens inside. I have no idea what it's doing or how it's doing it. In fact, even the AI developers, the AI engineers, they themselves don't know how AI is working out, why it's doing what it's doing. You're giving it a query, it's giving you a response, but you cannot really explain why it's giving the response that it is. Okay? So it's almost like it's a magic. There is ongoing research right now looking at how do I explain the logic that's used by AI within that black box. That's the second one, which again, right now, obviously, is still in unsolved form. There is work happening, which is to explain why AI is giving recommendation that it is giving. The third one has to do with reliable AI. Today, you and I, when we use software, let's say Microsoft Office, Microsoft Word, it's very predictable. You know exactly what behavior to expect from that software. AI doesn't work like that. AI is very probabilistic. What that means is, if I'm giving it a query and it's giving me a response, there's a probability attached to that response in terms of how accurate that response is. What 10, 15 years back, IBM came out with something called IBM Watson. A lot of excitement that it generated at that point in time. That was again based on AI. But one good thing that you used to do was, again, you would ask it a question, you give back a response. It would also tell you the probability attached to that response. What's the probability that this response is going to be accurate? AI is probabilistic. It's getting better. Obviously, a lot depends on what sort of data it's consuming. But nevertheless, it's not the same way as your typical software. On the other hand, we also argue, look, I mean, even if you ask the same question to a human would only going to answer based on what he or she knows. So there is still that probabilistic aspect of it. Same thing applies to AI development. In fact, I found a very interesting quote here from Deloitte, where they essentially said, we spent the last 10 years trying to get machines to understand us better, that they can start doing things that we want them to do. The next 10 years might be more about information that help us understand how machines are doing what they do. This goes specifically back to explainable algorithm model. Really understanding why AI is doing what it's doing. And the same thing with the probabilistic aspect of it. Okay? All right, so what does it all mean for all of us? Okay, I've also given you many examples, I mean, especially from an AI point of view, that really here to stay. A lot of disruption that is driving that disruption not in one industry, off the board. So let's start the first area, the cloud computing itself. Okay, I talked about software as a service, and this is something that's been happening obviously the last maybe 10 to 15 years. Companies that traditionally used to only sell software that you could just buy, sometimes on a DVD or a CD, they're all moving to the cloud, all making it available as a service. In fact, I still remember many years back, Oracle, the longest time used to just know, you're not going to make this available on the cloud. They have embraced obviously cloud as well. So a lot of advantages of software as a service. They said you don't have to worry about, the installation, maintenance, upgrades, and all that. So definitely software as a service is there to stay. That is one that increasingly I'm just looking at, adopting a lot more. Closely related is the backup. I mean, that again, especially when you start looking at business continuity, resiliency, having your data essentially secured makes a huge difference. Coming to AIs, the point I made earlier, I'll just reiterate, think of AI as an enabler. Don't feel threatened, okay? Use it to your advantage. Okay, and the various ways that you can look at it. And one is what I said, in terms of like say a lot of the data processing, data manipulation, or just being able to validate the accuracy of data. A lot of tools out there, okay, leverage them. Other thing, the big advantage of AI is it can process large volumes of data. That again, you can definitely take advantage of that. Your question? Yeah. Okay, the last slide. And finally, in terms of creating draft reports, which you can then further customize, you can use again AI for that. The last thing I would say is that remember, AI tools, use them as enablers. They're not here to replace jobs. Yes, they're going to have an impact, but a lot depends on how you adapt, how you leverage them as technology to really provide the technology. That's all I have.